Welcome back to Horrifying Stories. After having been missing for many days, a group of 9 hikers were all found dead on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, or the Dead Mountain, in what is now known as the Dyatlov Pass. The condition in which their bodies had been found has made it one of the most mysterious hiking incidents to this day. This is their horrifying story. Viewer discretion is advised. On January 25, 1959, a group of 10 hikers arrived at the city of Ivdel in the northern province of Sverdlovsk Oblast. These 8 men and 2 women were either students or graduates of Ural Polytechnical Institute, all experienced in both long ski tours and mountain expeditions. Led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, the plan was to reach Gora or Toten Mountain, which stands 1,182 meters above sea level and is part of the Ural mountain ranges, on a 14-day expedition. From Ivdel, the group traveled by land on a truck to Vizhay. By the end of the expedition, the group planned to return to Vizhay, and once back, Dyatlov was expected to send a telegram to their sports club no later than February 12. And so on the 27th, the group started their hike at Vizhay onto their journey to Toten. However, the following day, one of the hikers, Yuri Yudin, experienced joint pains and decided to abandon the climb. Before going separate ways, Dyatlov had advised Yudin to expect a slight delay in their return. The 9 hikers continued on with their expedition, documenting their climb with the use of diaries and cameras. February 12 came, yet Dyatlov and the rest of the team were unheard of. Because they've already anticipated a slight delay, they waited for a few more days. 8 days later, on February 20th, there were still no updates from Dyatlov's team. At this point, families and relatives were getting worried and started pushing that a search be conducted. That same day, a search and rescue operation was then mounted. The rescuers were able to retrieve the diaries and cameras which they left at their last camp, allowing the rescue team to have a glimpse of the hikers' route until that point. By February 26, the responders discovered the group's severely damaged tent on Kholat Syakhl. The tent was torn and covered with snow. Nobody was inside, but all their stuff was inside the tent. After further investigation, they realized the tent had actually been cut open from the inside. Since shoes were also found inside the tent, they believed the hikers either ran out with only their socks on, or worse, barefoot. The next thing rescuers found were a series of footprints that either belonged to 8 or 9 people. The rescuers followed these footprints and it led them to the edge of the woods 1.5 kilometers opposite the pass where their tent was found. However, as they moved forward, the footprints were already covered with snow. The woods then became the focus of the search, and not long after, the team found marks of a fire under a huge cedar tree. Beside it were the remains of the first 2 hikers, 23-year-old Yuri Krivoshenko and 21-year-old Yuri Doroshenko. The 2 were barefoot and did not have clothes on. Strangely, they were just out there in their underwear. There were also a few broken branches on the ground. Doroshenko's body was found in a brown-purple state, gray foam coming out of his right cheek and gray liquid from his mouth. Both their hands appeared to be scraped. Upon further investigation, it has been identified that one of the bodies had been moved after having died, as the area where the blood settled post-mortem was inconsistent with the position in which the body was found. The next day, the search continued, and Igor Dyatlov's body was eventually found 300 meters away from the cedar tree to the direction of the tent. Another hiker's body, 22-year-old Zenaida Kolmogorova, was found a little bit farther, around 630 meters from the tree, with a baton-shaped bruise on her side. After 6 days, on March 5, the body identified to be that of 23-year-old Rustam Slobodin was found 480 meters away from the cedar. He had sustained head injuries, as if he had fallen and hit his head multiple times. All 3 bodies were found in such a position that faced the direction of the tent, seemingly trying to make their way back to the tent. No serious injuries had been found, although Slobodin had been found with a small crack in the skull. Still, the investigation pointed to hypothermia as the main cause of death. With 5 bodies already found, the search continued for the remaining 4 hikers, but it wasn't until 2 months later that the search came to its final close. On May 5, 1959, in a ravine 50 meters from the cedar tree opposite the direction of the tent, bodies of the remaining hikers were found buried under snow that was 4 meters thick. Compared to the first 5 bodies found, these 4 had more clothing on. In fact, it seemed that some of the hikers had taken the clothes of the hikers who died first and wore it themselves. But it was not just because of the borrowing of clothes that made their death an even greater mystery. Rather, the fatal injuries in which the second group of bodies had been found have brought the investigation to an unexpected turn. 20-year-old Lyudmila Dubinina was found wearing a brown sweater believed to have belonged to Krivonischenko, one of the 5 hikers who were first retrieved. Further investigation showed that the sweater was radioactive and had sustained major fractures in the chest. However, what was even more strange was that Dubinina's tongue, eyes, part of her lips, a facial tissue and a fragment of her skull bone were missing when her body was found. 23-year-old Nikolai Thibault-Brignol had apparently been found wearing Dubinina's fur coat and hat. His body had also suffered from major skull damage, but no external wounds were found. Meanwhile, 38-year-old Semyon Zolotaryov's body was found to be wearing the hat that was believed to be that of Doroshenko, also one of the first 2 bodies found. Zolotaryov was also found to have sustained major fractures in the chest similar to Dubinina, and yet there were no external injuries. Doroshenko's overalls were also found in the body of another hiker, 24-year-old Alexander Kolevatov. Further investigation also revealed that the waistband of the sweater he was wearing and the lower part of his ski trousers were found to be radioactive. Strangely, their bodies were discovered a few feet away from an improvised shelter in the deep part of the ravine. It was around 4 square meters in size, and it was believed to have been built by the hikers themselves by digging out a portion of the snow and using branches as makeshift shelter. There were still a few clothes seen hanging on the cedar tree's branches, believed to belong to that of the first 2 bodies found under the tree. However, for some unknown reason, the clothes were not used. Upon a closer look at the 3 hikers that sustained fatal injuries, the doctor had noted that only a force comparable to a car crash could explain the injuries they sustained, and because there were no visible external wounds, the most probable cause suggests that they were subjected to extreme levels of pressure. Despite the injuries, what was clear at that point was that the main cause of death for all 9 hikers was hypothermia. However, the mysterious deaths and the conditions in which the group's bodies had been found are seemingly hard to piece together. This has led many to come up with various theories with regard to the actual cause of the group's tragic demise. Many Soviets considered the angle of a possible attack by the local Mansi tribesmen, which prompted the group's sudden dispersal and chaos, leading to the major injuries sustained by some of the hikers. However, the Mansi tribe were believed to be peace-loving people. Also, the absence of severe external injuries and absence of any other footprints aside from the hikers eventually disproved this claim. Another angle looked into was the occurrence of a sudden and powerful avalanche that could have brought the hikers in complete shock, leading them to escape their tents with no time to dress up. This theory would have explained the extent of their internal injuries caused by a heavy and forceful collapse of snow. However, investigators noted that there had been no physical evidence of a recent avalanche when the bodies had been found, let alone a single record of an avalanche in the area over the years. No debris and no significant damage had been observed in the forest area as well. Others believed that the strange behavior displayed by the hikers and the condition that the bodies have been found, especially the lack of clothing, suggested that the hikers had lost their sound judgment, an early symptom of hypothermia. The hikers must have unreasonably thought their bodies were in a state of overheating just when they were about to die due to hypothermia, resulting in them taking off their clothes instead of seeking to keep themselves warm. However, this theory couldn't explain why the hikers left their tents in such a haste when it could have been their refuge from the cold. The angle of romance resulting in conflict has also been considered. Some speculations arose based on the dating history of some of the hikers, seemingly explaining the reason why some of the hikers were not appropriately clothed and might have led to conflict or argument within the group. However, this couldn't explain the fact that the injuries found in some of the hikers could only be inflicted by a force greater than any human can, aside from the fact that many could attest to the harmonious relationship of the group. Because the extent of the injuries pointed to a non-human force, another angle suggested that the hikers could have been attacked by a menk, a Russian mythical creature, especially with the condition in which Dubinina was found having had missing parts of the face. Another theory, on the other hand, emphasized the evidence that has been found to be radioactive, leaning towards the possibility that the hikers had died after being accidentally hit by a radioactive weapon in a secret government testing operation. A statement of another group of hikers who camped 50 kilometers away from Dyatlov's team supported this theory, as they claimed to have seen orange orbs flying in the sky above Kholat Syakhl. This theory suggests that the sound of the radioactive weapon must have triggered their sudden escape from the tents inappropriately dressed, leading the first two groups of hikers found to their eventual death due to hypothermia. While the remaining 4 hikers were believed to have suffered a direct hit, which explains their injuries. Chief investigator Lev Ivanov strongly believed in this theory, as later expressed in a local newspaper in Kazakhstan in 1990. However, the Soviet Union forced him to let go of conducting further investigation on this angle due to censorship and secrecy. Furthermore, if radiation was indeed the cause of their demise, higher levels of radioactive substances would have been found in their bodies and not the minimal level in which they had been tested. Ultimately, the Russian government refused to look into the case deeper and instead closed the investigation shortly after, with no details presented. Their deaths had only been attributed to incompetence and natural catastrophe. It was not until 2019 that the case had been reopened by Russian officials, but only 3 theories had been looked into: the avalanche, a snow slab, or a hurricane. Not long after, the case has been closed once more without more solid details, simply ruling out the possibility of a criminal angle. Then, in July 2020, Alexander Puzrin, a professor of geotechnical engineering in Zurich, and Johann Gaume, head of the Snow and Avalanche Simulation Laboratory at École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, reopened the study into the avalanche theory. The results of their study was published in the Communications, Earth and Environment journal in 2021, detailing with a much stronger basis that a huge snow slab had great potential to cause an avalanche, leading to the hikers' deaths. In 2022, they released video footage at the Dyatlov Pass, the exact area where the bodies had been found, showing a simulation in the avalanche that may have possibly occurred many years back. With a more concrete explanation, many believe that this is finally the official closure to the mystery behind the Dyatlov Pass incident. However, many others still remain skeptical behind this tragic incident more than 6 decades ago, which cost the lives of 9 young hikers. Today, a monument of the 9 hikers can be found in the Mykojlov Cemetery at Ekaterinburg, where their bodies have been buried along with the ultimate and indisputable truth no living man will ever know. To this day, the slope in which they had been found still remains to be called the Dyatlov Pass in honor of the 9. Thank you for making it this far. If you liked this video, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Let us know, what do you think happened to the 9 hikers in Dyatlov Pass in the comments below. Again, thank you and see you on the next one.